On the 11th of April 1970, Apollo 13 was launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Everything was going fine, when suddenly a jolt shook the vessel as an oxygen tank exploded. Something had gone wrong. Astronaut Jack Swigert radioed to Mission Control.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
One of the oxygen tanks had exploded, while in the other, oxygen was quickly running out. Not only this, the explosion's force jolted the spacecraft far off its intended trajectory. They were lost in the void, far from the lunar destination they had aimed for. In the midst of this cosmic turmoil, an unintended record was being created. Their ship had become the farthest human-made object to venture from Earth, a record that is still unmatched to this day. These three astronauts were pioneers in the truest sense, voyaging farther into space than any others before them. The spotlight now shifted from lunar landings to a singular question, echoing through the cosmos. How can we make it back home? There were two options that the Mission Control and the crew had: to turn the spaceship around and take the fastest route back to Earth. However, to do this, they had to turn on the main engine of the command service module. But this engine was pretty close to where the explosion had taken place. No one knew if this engine was working properly or not. Second option was to progress towards the moon and, after a full turn around it, return back to Earth. Although you wouldn't have to rely on the engine of command and service module, this journey would take 4 to 5 days. Do they have enough oxygen to survive for that long? Gene Kranz, NASA's flight director, chooses the second option here. For this option to execute, the crew had to shut down the CSM module that had experienced damage due to the explosion and use the Lunar Module as a lifeboat to return back to Earth. The Lunar Module was designed to support only 2 astronauts for a much shorter duration compared to the expected return journey time of Apollo 13. The mission's extended duration put strain on the support systems, including oxygen, water, and waste management. It was also not designed to power systems for an entire return journey. Its propulsion system was primarily designed for lunar descent and ascent, not for major course corrections or Earth re-entry. While this came with its own risks, this was the safest available option. And so, these astronauts reached the far side of the moon while taking a full turn. Being on this trajectory now meant that the crew could potentially reach back to Earth in 153 hours after launch. This was also extremely risky, and to avoid this, a decision to give the engine a second burn was made. This changed the journey's time to 143 hours. While this problem was solved, there was another problem that occurred. Carbon dioxide levels were getting high. While the Lunar Module was well equipped to manage 2 people using lithium hydroxide canisters, an equipment used to control the carbon dioxide levels. This was not enough for 3 people to survive for up to 4 days. To overcome this challenge, the team at Mission Control and the astronauts had to innovate and devise a way to create a functional CO2 scrubber using the materials they had. They used various items such as hoses, spacesuit components, and even plastic bags to create a makeshift adapter that would allow them to use the canisters to filter more CO2 from the command module's atmosphere. Commander Lovell also accounts for this much-needed discovery in his book, Lost Moon. His words were, "The contraption wasn't very handsome, but it worked. It looked something like this. Everything looked fine now as they approached the Earth. They were near the Earth when they realized that they need to do another burn. Thankfully, the spacecraft handled this third burn too. It was time to re-enter the Earth." The Lunar Module's ascent stage was jettisoned, and only the command module, CM, re-entered Earth's atmosphere, as this is the only part that can resist the high temperatures experienced at this time. As it re-entered, there was a complete communication blackout. And then almost 4 minutes, 27 seconds later, Mission Control heard.
Hello, Houston. This is Odyssey. It's good to see you again.
From the black canvas of failure emerged a masterpiece of innovation, resourcefulness, and unyielding teamwork. Apollo 13's legacy isn't etched in moon dust. It's written in the indomitable spirit that turns catastrophe into catalyst, proving that even amongst the stars, the power of human ingenuity shines brightest in the face of adversity.